The world waits in silence. The air feels heavy, like a storm is about to break. Not a storm of thunder, but one of spirit. The streets are empty, the lamps flicker, and somewhere, footsteps echo softly against stone. A story is about to continue. Not of heroes or kings, but of ordinary souls touched by something eternal. This is where the heart of the chosen beats again. The camera glides slowly through the quiet streets of ancient Capernaum. Dust rises under unseen feet. The soft sound of wind brushes through half-open doors and over empty tables. Everything feels paused, as if the world itself is holding its breath, waiting for something sacred to begin again. A candle burns inside a small home. Its light dances over a clay bowl, a folded robe, and a shadow on the wall, the faint shape of a man who once stood there, speaking words that changed hearts. The silence here isn't empty. It's alive. Every corner remembers laughter, healing, and tears. The memories still whisper, "He was here." Then comes the voice, calm, deep, filled with warmth and weight. Before every great storm, there is stillness. Before every miracle, there is waiting. The voice continues, carrying both sorrow and peace. The world thinks the story of the chosen is about what has already happened, but the truth lies in what is yet to come. Every silence hides a heartbeat. Every shadow holds a light. Every ending prepares the way for something greater. As the words echo, the visuals begin to shift from the silent streets to glimpses of the cast and sets. Empty costumes hang beside weathered props. The camera lingers on the sandals left on a stone floor. It's as if the characters themselves are preparing to return, stepping back into lives that have already changed so many. The music begins, low and reverent, a simple melody that slowly builds. We see the sunlight begin to rise behind a hill, painting gold over stone and sand. Dust turns to light. Stillness turns to life. This silence is not the end, the voice whispers. It's the pause before the next heartbeat. We see the ocean waves roll against the shore. A single boat rests on the water peters. The oars are still, but the tide moves, pulling softly toward the horizon. It feels like a promise. The narrator's voice grows firmer now, with quiet strength. Season 5 begins not with noise, but with stillness. Because faith is not built in the moments we see miracles. It's built in the moments we wait for them. The camera pans upward. The sky is bright now. The sound of wind replaced by soft strings of music. The world is waking up. The disciples will soon walk again. And through it all, one presence unseen but deeply felt begins to stir within the silence. Fade out. Black screen. White text appears, the silence before the calling. The heart before the miracle. The chosen. Season 5. The sound of waves. Slow. Constant. Eternal. Every story begins with a call. The voice says softly, but only a few have the courage to answer. The screen fades in a fisherman's net falling into the sea. A tax collector's ink-stained hands pausing mid-count. A woman's tear landing on dusty feet. These are not random images, they're fragments of hearts that chose to follow. Something greater than themselves. The music begins. Gentle strings that feel like memory. We move through time, as though walking through a dream. Peter's laughter under starlight. Mary's trembling hands as she's forgiven. Matthew's first hesitant step behind the teacher. Thomas doubting, then believing. They were not saints, the narrator whispers. They were people. Broken, uncertain, afraid, and somehow chosen. Scenes blur together like old paintings coming to life. The lame walking, the blind seeing, the lost returning home. Each moment feels more like a heartbeat than a memory. The miracles aren't loud or glittering, they are quiet revolutions. Small sparks that turned into a movement that changed the world. But faith was never easy. The light shifts. Day turns to storm. The laughter fades. We see shadows now. Betrayal hiding behind trust. Fear creeping through courage. Love tested by the weight of the cross. Every step forward, the voice continues, came with a price. The visuals flash. The crowd shouting. a friend denying, a mother watching in silence. And through it all, one figure walks on, steady, calm, unshaken. Jesus, never rushing, never retreating. The world saw a man, the voice says. But those who followed saw God walking through dust. The screen slows again, his hand touching a child's head, his eyes filled with both sorrow and knowing. They didn't just see miracles, the narrator whispers. They became them. The music swells, strings and drums rising like memory turned into hope. We see each disciple once more changed, matured, marked by everything they've lived. Peter's courage, Mary's compassion, Matthew's clarity, John's light, each carries a piece of him, the journey so far. The voice says with quiet awe, is not about how far they've walked, but how deeply they've been changed. A montage of faces, not the cast, but the people watching the show around the world. Every face lit by the same light that once shone in Galilee. Because their journey, the voice concludes, was never meant to end in Scripture. It was meant to continue in us, the final image, the sea again, calm and endless. The same waters that once reflected the face of a carpenter who changed history. White text fades in slowly over the waves. The journey so far, the chosen. Season 5. The sound of wind fades. Only the ocean remains, steady, timeless, alive. The light breaks through clouds, spilling gold over the desert. Dust rises with each gust of wind, like time itself is waking up. Then, a single question cuts through the quiet. What happens when the story you thought you knew begins to breathe again? This is not just another season. It's a return to the pulse of faith, the ache of sacrifice, and the raw edge of destiny. The Chosen, Season 5, does not simply continue, it descends deeper. Into the hidden corners of every heart that has walked beside him, the camera moves through faces we know but hardly recognize. Older, wiser, worn by what they've seen. Peter's eyes are heavier, not just with exhaustion, but with knowledge. Mary's hands tremble slightly as she holds a clay jar, the same kind that once carried oil and tears. Matthew writes again, but his words come slower now, as if he's afraid of the truth they might reveal. Faith is no longer about following, the narrator murmurs. It's about understanding. The music builds slowly, a heartbeat beneath the narration. Low drums, the sound of strings trembling like held breath. Scenes flash, a crowd pressing forward, soldiers shouting in the distance. A child reaching out a hand, a look of fear turning into something deeper, hope. The camera then fades into a darker tone. Storm clouds gather over Jerusalem. A cross lies on the ground, not yet raised, but waiting patient, inevitable. The world of the Chosen is changing. The laughter that once filled the campfires is quieter now, replaced by the kind of silence that only comes before a heartbreak. This season, the voice says softly, is not about the miracles you expect, but the ones you never see. Cut to Jesus, standing alone at dawn. His back to the camera, the horizon glowing faintly ahead. The wind moves through his hair. No music, just the sound of breath and distance. Even the Son of Man, the narrator continues, must walk through the valley of silence before the light breaks. The visuals shift, torches flickering in the night. The disciples scattered, the temple gates closing. Yet amidst all of it, one thing burns brighter than before. Resolve. The narrator's tone grows deeper now, almost prophetic. Season 5 is where faith is tested not by storms, but by silence. Where hearts are torn not by war, but by choice. And where love is no longer gentle, it's fierce. Flashes of emotion, a hand gripping another in the dark, a tear falling onto sand, a whispered prayer drowned by thunder. The faces of believers, skeptics, and enemies, all caught in the same human storm. Then, for a moment, everything stops. The music drops away. Only a heartbeat remains. What lies in the heart of Season 5? The voice whispers. Not the story of what happens to them, but what happens within them. The screen fades to black. A single heartbeat echoes once more. Slow, strong, human. White text fades in. bold and simple. The Chosen, Season 5, where faith finds its fire. The screen opens to darkness. Not silence, but the faint sound of breathing. Uneven, strained, human. Then a single spark, fire catching on dry wood. Light flickers across tired faces. The disciples sit around a small flame, the night heavy with questions. They don't dare speak. Faith, the voice begins softly, is not proven when the storm ends. But when it refuses to end, the camera pans across faces we've journeyed with Peter, staring into the fire, hands trembling as if holding the weight of 1,000 choices. Mary, her eyes closed, whispering words of prayer she no longer fully understands. Matthew, his hands stained with ink, pausing mid-sentence as though even writing has become too heavy. Each face tells a story of belief under pressure, not against enemies outside, but the doubts inside. They followed him through miracles, the narrator continues, but now they must follow him through silence. Quick flashes break the stillness, soldiers marching through narrow streets, whispers spreading through the city, the shadows of crosses being carved against the skyline. The once peaceful journey has turned into a path of fire. Faith, the voice deepens, burns brightest when it stands alone. Each of them will face the fire differently, the narrator whispers. Some will run from it. Some will break in it. But a few will walk through it. The music grows slow, heartbeat like drums. Shadows twist in rhythm with the flames. The light from the fire reflects off their eyes, turning tears into glimmers of gold. The scene transitions, Jesus walking ahead of them through the darkness, his robe moving with the wind. They follow from a distance, unsure, afraid. The fire they sat around fades into the torchlight they now carry. The world is darker, but the fire still burns, not outside, but within. Season 5, the voice continues, is not about keeping faith. It's about fighting for it. Cut 2. Peter standing in a crowded street, his face half hidden by shadow. Soldiers pass, and for a moment, his faith wavers. But then, his eyes rise not to the crowd, but to the cross being built on the hill. Faith under fire, the narrator says slowly, is not destroyed. It's refined. We see glimpses Thomas helping a wounded man despite his fear, Mary praying through tears, Matthew writing the words that will one day outlive them all. Each acts small, yet blazing with quiet courage. This is not the faith of comfort, the narrator says, voice trembling with emotion. This is the faith of choice, a pain, of love that refuses to die. The fire from the opening scene flares one last time, rising into the night. Bright enough to light their faces. The voice returns, softer now. And in that fire, they will find not an ending, but a beginning. Fade to black. White text appears against the darkness. Faith under fire, The Chosen. Season 5, it begins. Not with lights, not with applause, but with a single breath, a prayer whispered before the first camera rolls. Let this story be more than a show. Let it be a heartbeat. The sound of rain tapping on canvas tents fades into the shuffle of footsteps. Crew members move like silent architects of faith, setting stones, hanging lamps, dressing the streets of Capernaum in ancient dust once more. The world of The Chosen doesn't rise from CGI or green screens. It's built by hands, faith, and fire. The camera glides through a sea of movement, wardrobe artists stitching robes in dim light, prop makers carving wooden crosses, a cinematographer adjusting a lens with trembling focus. Every frame crafted with purpose, every detail touched with care. Miracles, the voice says softly, don't happen by accident. They're shaped by sweat, by tears, by belief that something bigger is speaking through you. You see the actors offset, quiet, focused, carrying the weight of stories older than time. Between takes, there's laughter, prayer, sometimes silence. The kind of silence that feels sacred. They aren't just playing these roles, they are living them. A close-up. The actor portraying Peter sits on a wooden bench, head bowed, whispering words we cannot hear. A crew member touches his shoulder, a silent reminder that even behind the camera, faith holds the room together. Every miracle, the narrator continues, begins in hidden places, in the choices no one sees, in the patience no one praises. The screen flashes moments, the director's hand rises. Action. The camera follows a tear sliding down a cheek. The light shifts just as the actor looks to heaven. Everything aligns. For a single second, time itself seems to stop. And in that second, the voice whispers, something eternal is captured, not by technology, but by truth. Behind the scenes, shots fade into the finished scenes, the laughter of the cast, blending with the cries of the characters they portray. The line between real and story blurs beautifully. Then, a montage, the sound of clapperboards, the rhythm of prayers, the hum of faith in motion. You can almost feel the devotion that holds this world together. This, the narrator says, is the unseen miracle. The one made not of light and thunder, but of love and labor. A final image. The director looking out over the set as dawn breaks. The actor stands still, waiting. The first rays of sun spill across their faces, and for a moment, it feels as if heaven itself has joined the scene. The miracle, the voice says with quiet awe, is not just what we see on screen. It's what we become behind it. The screen fades to black. White text appears. Glowing softly, the making of the miracle, The Chosen, Season 5. There's a moment somewhere between a line spoken and a tear falling when the story stops being about them and starts being about us. The Chosen, the voice begins softly, was never meant to stay on the screen. It was meant to awaken something sleeping inside us. The music is low, strings trembling under a slow heartbeat rhythm. The visuals are abstract. A ripple in water, a candle flickering in the wind, an open hand reaching toward light. Everything feels quiet, thoughtful, like a prayer filmed in motion. We see the faces of strangers, not actors, but people. A mother watching late at night. A man sitting alone with his phone, eyes wet but smiling. A child repeating a line from the show in wonder. These are not part of the cast, but they are part of the story now. Because the message of The Chosen, the narrator continues, was never trapped in dialogue. It lives in what it stirs inside the hearts of those who listen. The camera drifts over letters, drawings, folded notes from fans, prayers, thank yous, confessions. Some written in English, others in languages from across the world. Every word carries the same longing. Hope. This is not just a story of ancient days, the voice whispers. It's the story of us still doubting, still falling, still finding light in the dust. The visuals shift, a montage of small, real miracles. A woman forgiving someone she once hated. A father holding his child tighter. A man closing his eyes and praying again after years of silence. No music now. Only the sound of the wind and distant waves. The message, the voice says, is not about perfect people. It's about broken ones, who dare to believe they can be whole again. Then, a pause. Black screen. Silence. After a beat, a soft light fades in, the same light that once shone over the hills of Galilee. Season 5 is more than continuation, the narrator says quietly. It's reflection. It's confrontation. It's the question every heart must answer. Do I still believe? The music swells, emotional and pure. We see glimpses Jesus walking through a crowd, unseen faces turning toward him, a tear on a cheek, a hand reaching out in faith. The message beneath the story, the voice concludes, is not written in words, but in the change it leaves behind. Final montage, the Bible closing, a candle being lit, and the faint sound of footsteps walking away. White text appears slowly against the fading light, and the message beneath the story, The Chosen, Season 5. Then silence. Only a single heartbeat remains. The screen is dark. For a moment, there's nothing. No sound, no image. Just the echo of silence that feels almost alive. Then, a single flame appears. Small, fragile, flickering against the black. Every story ends the same way. The voice begins softly, not with silence, but with light. The camera draws closer to the flame. Around it, the world slowly starts to wake. Shadows melt, shapes return, faces emerge. The fire grows, spreading warmth into the cold stillness. The Chosen, the narrator continues, was never a tale of the past. It is the reminder that faith doesn't fade when the credits roll. It begins again when the lights go out. The visuals shift, gentle, poetic, layered like memory. Hands reaching for one another, tears turning into smiles. Children running through fields touched by dawn. Every image breathes the same truth. The story didn't end 2,000 years ago. It still walks among us. The music swells, soft piano, rising strings, distant choir. It's not triumphant. It's holy. For some, this season will end with questions, the voice says. For others, it will begin with faith. The screen fades through moments of the cast in silence, heads bowed, eyes closed, as if praying for what comes next. The camera lingers on their faces. No words, just presence. You can feel their transformation, not as characters, but as souls who've touched something eternal then. The visuals transition to real people, unseen faces. Only hands lighting candles, writing prayers, hugging loved ones. The connection between the story and the viewer becomes seamless. The heart of the Chosen has never been the miracles, the narrator whispers. It has always been the love behind them. A flash of light fills the frame. Sunrise, golden, endless. The sea shimmers. Birds rise from the shore. The sound of waves returns, the same rhythm that began this journey. The light beyond the ending, the voice says with warmth, is the same light that started it all. The light that calls, forgives, and never leaves. The final montage begins. Jesus walking along the water's edge, the disciples following from afar. The camera never shows his face, only the light around him, soft and alive. He stops, turns slightly, and though unseen, you can feel his gaze. This isn't the end, the narrator says in a whisper. It's the beginning of everything. The music rises, the crescendo of hope. Every note feels like breath returning to the world. The screen fades to white. White text appears slowly, glowing like dawn, the Chosen, Season 5, into the heart of faith. Then, just one final line, quiet, simple, eternal, the story continues. In you, fade to silence. The flame goes out.